What's up, you guys? Grace and love to everyone. Lace Life Aspects with Visionary Bros. Listen, so this month is still intervention, but today's topic is going to be, let's take a pit stop. So listen, you know how when you're traveling and you're taking on a long road by car, there's a rest area. You see the sign that says rest area every couple of miles, or every, you see them somewhere down the road when you're traveling on a long road. Listen, that's how life is sometimes. Life is like a journey. So we're riding this long journey. And in a way, sometimes we got to take a few pit stops. The few pit stops that we have to take throughout our life, sometimes we have to recuperate. We got to have our rest time. We got to have some times where where things got to get finalized. It got to get structured out. It got to get strategized out. We got to write things out. Sometimes we got to go back and we got to put a few notes down. We got to figure out, okay, how is this gonna play out? What is this that I want to do? Like you're planning for a trip. When you're planning for a trip, you got so many things that you're writing out, so many things that you want to do. Even when you're planning out your goals into your life, you got different goals that you want to achieve by a certain time, by a certain age. And let me tell you something, in the midst of you trying to achieve these goals by a certain age, or you're trying to achieve these goals by a certain time, or you're trying to achieve like a simple small goal by the end of this week, you got to take a few stops. Let me tell you something, don't think that the stops is like a permanent stop. Sometimes these stops are very temporary, and temporary stops sometimes really helps us in the process, because once we get back on track, it's like a setback for a major comeback. You ever heard of that one? A setback for a major comeback. Let me tell you something, in the midst of your things, sometimes in the midst of your pit stops, we take time to recuperate. We take time to get ourselves together mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. We take time to get all of those aspects in order for ourselves, because let me tell you something, when you're going into like a new structure of your life, or you're going into like a new season of your life, there is always something that happens before the blessing comes in. Sometimes you may go through hell and high waters before you got to get to somewhere you want to be. And in the midst of that hell and high water, there was a lot of pit stops that was in between, but you didn't let those pit stops stop you. Just like I said in my message, look how far you've come. Look how far you come. Stop downing yourself throughout the process. Stop downing yourself, because the more you down yourself, the more you're going to feel like a failure. And then that's when you're going to begin to be a failure, because your mindset is what you think. It's how you feel. And the thing about what I'm saying is how you think and how you feel, because we can let outside energy get the best of us. We can let social media, let me say social media is not a bad thing, but social media can be a bad thing when you think that social media is your life. Social media, when you look at social media and you want to be like the next person on social media, I told you guys in one of my messages on last week, never want to be like anybody else, because you never know what it took for them to get there. You never know what they had to do. You never know if they came from homeless to what they got now. So don't judge nobody. Don't be like, oh, I want to be like this person. You don't want to be like anybody. You want to be inspired by other people, but you don't want to be like anybody else. They can't be you and you can't be them. So that's why you got to keep going. There's pit stops along the way in the journey. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be failures. How do you think you're going to be successful if you haven't failed in anything? How would you know? How would you know how to keep going? How would you know how to not give up? How would you know what you need to do? You got to mess up in order to fix it. And then when you fix it, you realize the mistakes that you made and you keep going. We don't let these mistakes get the best of us. We don't let people get the best of us. We don't let our depression, our anxiety, things that the enemy wants to bring up against you, fight the enemy off. Fight the enemy off. Pray daily. Pit stops along the way does not mean it's a permanent failure. It's just temporary. It's just temporary. And once you tell yourself that these pit stops are just temporary, because let me tell you something, when you're driving, sometimes the pit stops, you gotta stretch. You gotta do so much in the midst of those pit stops. But once we get back on the road, we're driving, we're keeping going. Look at your life like that. It's the pit stops. Don't let the pit stop stop you, but you be in control of the pit stop. And let me tell you something, don't let the pit stop be too long. When I say don't let the pit stop be too long, this is when the procrastination comes in. This is when your mind begins to tell you, this is when the enemy begins to tell you that, oh, you can't do that, you can't achieve that, that person don't like you, when that person really do like you. That person don't love you, but that person really does love you. Look how far you come. Remember that one. But the pit stops, it's a pit stop, but the pit stop is not permanent. It's just temporary. I love you guys. I hope you guys took something from this message. There may be a part 2, because I have some notes that's written down, but I didn't have my notes with me right now. But I love you guys, and I thank you guys for rocking and watching. Grace and love to you all. Remember, it's only temporary. It's not permanent. I love you guys, and thank y'all for rocking with Life Aspects with Visionary Rose.